Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Q&A for Class 4. Thanks so much for tuning in this last class of 2023. I'm looking on Facebook and you guys are getting it cut. You're getting it put together. This is great. This is great. I'm so glad to see so much hard work going into the Hexi Snowball. And if you're not there yet, no sweat, no big deal at all. I'm glad you're tuning in tonight to our Q&A. I'm here live in Kingston, Ontario. I've got Amanda Brown with me as usual. Hi, Amanda. There you are. Hi. How are you doing?
You doing good?
I'm doing good. Doing really good. How's your quilt coming?
It's coming. I was able to get almost the whole top, like all the little units done.
Good.
But because I am being picky and I have these cats and I want these middle ones to all be facing up on the quilt. I don't want topsy-turvy ones. So then I keep making the wrong ones. It's like a mental block.
And how many times do you say, or do you like debate abandoning that idea altogether?
I know, but it's like, if one's wrong now, it'll just look so bad.
Yeah. It's very easy to do. And, I say in the classes, and, for those who have watched the latest class, they know I left a mistake in the class of what I did. Sometimes I edit them out and sometimes I say, leave it in because it is a real possibility that others will do this too. And so if you know, you know. If you've watched class 4, you know the mistake that I left in. So please, I had issues with my guys on. Is that a skier?
Yeah. Was there one with like little people?
Oh yeah. He's right here somewhere because I'm doing the winter one right now. So obviously they're saying about trying to keep their skiers in line. We can show you on the overhead. I've got my son Xavier on the cameras tonight, so thank you for being here, Exie. And he is going to be putting your questions and stuff on the screen. So let me know where you're tuning in from tonight, and he'll get you guys up and put your comments on the screen. It's true. The skiers are, if you were being particular about direction, is one that you could have done that with. Same with some of the hens that are in this one.
Yeah.
But I just put them together any which way.
And I did that for like my ghosts are all over. My other patterns are all over. But for some reason, I focused on those cats. They needed to be upright.
So let us know if you have any questions about putting your blocks together, your blocks together in the rows and sewing your rows together. Is anybody that far along yet that's tuning in? I did see a lot of people laying out their quilt, which is amazing. But it's a hectic time of year, everyone. If you're not, even starting this until the new year, no big deal at all. Vanessa's in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Very nice, Vanessa. And Evelyn from Vernon, BC. Hi. Dana's in Calgary. Hi. Thank you for being here. Yes. Yeah. She's saying haven't had a chance. You can show that one, Exie. Yeah. Haven't had a chance to do this week. No problem.
It's such a busy time of year.
It's very, very busy. And of course, this is one of those things that's like, you can set it aside. Like this morning, 6:30 a.m., I was like, I better make those Santa bags. And I was down sewing gift bags. You know what I mean? So I totally understand that there's other things people like us want to be making right now. However, if you are giving this as a gift, you better get at it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. But I mean, like a small photo with a promise that it will be there within a year or two is always
photos work for sure. Mine are all upright, unlike my soldiers in one of my lotties. Yeah, it's true. The more you quilt and do these things, the more you know what, I am going to take the time and make sure these are all rotated. Or you're going to go, you know what, it's fine in this case. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, working on a little at a time. Yes, it gets easier as you go. It definitely gets easier as you go. In fact, you kind of become, you really do figure out what works for you,
Mhm.
especially in the sewing curves and in the cutting. You kind of strike a rhythm. I thought Virginia had an absolutely genius hack about just sewing on the square on the top of instead of the D piece, instead of trying to cut out all the little triangles.
So smart.
So smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hive mind is amazing because I would never have really gotten to that point.
Virginia's an engineer, I believe. So she's always thinking like, how could we, make this more efficient? And
Mhm.
she's got that beautiful mix of creativity and very like practical ingenuity. So
Yeah.
thank you for that tip. That's a good one. I think I would probably just do that if I were to do it again.
Yeah. I did the dreaded thing that you're never supposed to do, which is do half of my quilts on one machine and then flip to a new machine for the next part.
Sometimes
So
you have to do it because you're changing, especially for people like me and you. Like sometimes I'm sewing here, and sometimes I'm sewing in my basement, and sometimes I'm sewing at my sister's, or sometimes I'm sewing like anywhere I possibly can. Is that what you were doing?
yeah, so I had to play with the 1/4 inch on the new machine I was using. I was using the 2030. So I put on the 1/4 inch foot, which has you call it the guide.
Yeah.
And then I had to move my needle and play with some of my stuff that I'd already seamed on my other machine and then get that seam allowance spot on so that I knew that I was at least going to be fairly close. And it's really funny, like just how off it was compared to my HP foot.
It's so true. Like, well, especially going between the HP foot and a regular presser foot. The HP is so much smaller. But it is true. And sometimes we just take it for granted, like, oh, who cares? But so are you just gonna roll with it, or what do you think?
No, now I'm switching back to my HP. Like it's just gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
It's gonna be fine.
Or it won't be, and it'll be a really great example to show people of why you don't switch machines. So it's one or the other.
Yeah, for sure. I thought I would take a little bit of time tonight, and we touched on it last week, and Amanda and I sort of had like a bit of differing views on like on the tension front. And I kind of said, guys, don't mess with your tension. Not because I don't think you should, but because I was scared you might mess something up and that you might not recover from it. So that's probably bad advice, especially when you're sewing with very thin thread. So what I did, yes. What are we looking at there?
It's a homemade mystery box. I just unboxed it while we were getting.
Oh, did you look in it already? You did?
No.
Oh, you just got it.
Didn't go out under the tree. I was just pulling it out of the shipping box because I found it in my studio. I was bored.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Okay, before we get to the tension talk, hands up if you got a mystery box that's waiting. Yay, Amanda, that's so good. I saw Vanessa already opened hers and she posted in the group or on the page or something like that. That she loved it. So, but no spoilers. Yeah.
And did you sell out of those? Are they all gone?
Yes, we sold over 100.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, over 100 people. Over 100 people got a mystery box, and we would probably be putting together some more, but we are out of boxes. We ordered boxes twice to put them in, and so I thought, okay, well, they come in like packs of 50, and so do we need 50 more? Probably not. And anyway, and at some point we had to say, look, we can only get this to you by Christmas if you order it by last Friday. But we had sold out of them like Wednesday last week. So if you got one, congratulations. I know you bought it, but I hope you do feel still a little like Merry Christmas from us and everybody here at Homemade. Bless Amanda. She wrapped every single one because, as crafty as I am, I really am a real terrible wrapper.
Me too.
Terrible. I'm terrible. I don't know why. I think it's because I've always got too much paper, and I think, oh, this should just come together like this, and that's like, and it's always lumpy on the ends. All of hers are nice and sharp on the ends, and
yeah, my stepdad once had me wrap presents for him, and that never happened again because I did such a crappy job. And I was like, that's a win-win.
I know, and I'm really good at like I can pick the paper, let's find some embellishments, and da da da. But then wrapping it, that's why those Santa bags, I can make tons of those. Yes. Put them in, nice bow. Exactly. Yes, very lucky to have all the Amandas. Very lucky to have all the Amandas. Amanda in the shop, Amanda Brown, and my sister Amanda, who's often around here. So we got 3 Amandas.
For the trio.
A trio. All right, let's talk tension.
Yes.
Because you are using Deco Bob, and I'm even you're catching me partway through free motioning this quilt, and I'm also free motioning it in Deco Bob. So let's just talk tension, since that's the thread you've got, and that's the thread I'm suggesting you use. So I tried it on a few of the computerized machines, and where I landed. And maybe I've got the stitch regulator on here right now, but let's just go in and I'll just show you where, if you're finding that your stitches look slanted, if they look like somebody has drawn the line, like a linear stitch, if they don't look like they're separate straight stitches where you see the front and or the beginning and the end of the stitch, if you don't see that, it means something's off with your tension. And sometimes we get a little like complacent where it's like, oh, I didn't really notice anything, because you kind of get used to it. But you really should see a defined stitch. And it should be straight, not like a little hat like this. Every once in a while, sometimes I saw like a little slanted stitch. And if you're not looking for it, sometimes you can just gloss over it. But here's what you can do. So if you've got automatic tension, so Xavier, let's just show them this camera here. If you've got automatic tension, you've probably on a Janome machine or whatever machine you're working with, you've probably got this little screen down here that shows the stitch length. And then if you press the arrow, you get to where your automatic tension is. And I'm in free motion quilting mode, so it's way up at 4.6. I'm going to go out of this and go home to regular stitching. Put the presser foot up so it doesn't think that we're doing that anymore. And I'm going to just go to regular sewing. And the tension here right now, you can see is at 3.4. I took it right down to I think it was 1 or 1.2. Amanda, where did you, and that's when I really saw a real like definition in my stitches. And yeah, that's on a computerized machine. Now, I'm not going to say that that's the number for your machine, because tension is one of those things that's a little bit subjective. It's a little bit dependent on your machine and, the thickness of your fabric and the thread and all of that. But this is where you can play. It's at 3.4. I took it all the way down to like in the ones, and my stitches started to look even more crisp. Amanda, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, I found with my M7, I didn't have to touch it at all, and my tension was bang on. And I think that anytime though my stitches aren't looking how I want them, especially sometimes I have problems with my bobbin thread just being straight across, and the top thread isn't pulling it up enough, that I start to play with my tension a little bit. But what I always do, especially if you're not on a computerized that will reset it the next time you turn it on, is I take a picture of my machine and the settings that it's on so that I know I can turn it back exactly where it was. Mm-hmm. Because I, even with working on the 2030 with my quilt at my parents' house, I had to move my needle over so much that I took a picture so I could sit down again and not play with it. I could just put it back there, because the 2030, I didn't take time to figure out if I could save my stitch or not. I just turned it on, moved my stuff over. So always take a picture.
And the 2030 is a machine that is more portable size than this. It's a similar size to the 4120 or the 5300. It's a smaller machine. It's computerized, but it has a tension dial on it. And there's squares around the 3, 4, and 5, because that's sort of ideal tension. But Amanda, maybe you could talk a little about when the thread is thinner, do you go up or down in the numbers? Because sometimes that messes with you.
Yes. So I always mess this up. But when your thread is thinner, you want the tension discs, if they're too far apart, you want to bring them in so that they're applying pressure on it. So you want to increase the tension. So you're going to the lower numbers. Like, it's so weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like the lower numbers are putting more pressure. Like they're pulling more, right?
Yeah, but like, honestly, what I often end up doing is taking two pieces of fabric, putting them together, taking out my pen, and then I do a line with one tension, write what tension it is, do another line with a different tension, do another line with another tension. And I can sit there and I have it written above each line or beside each line what tension it is, so I can look at it and I can kind of pull it apart. Which one am I liking? And then, because sometimes, even with the electronic machines, what you think is going to fix the problem in conjunction with what's happening with your bobbin is not fixing the problem. It might make it worse. So when we focus on physically stitching it out and looking at the results, I think we get to understand what settings we're going to work better on our machine.
100%. And to be, unlike me last week that told you not to be confident enough to play with your tension.
It's valid though, because the last thing we want is for someone to be frustrated with their machine because they've changed something and have forgotten, or changed something and it just isn't working the same as it was before. Yeah,
and they can't seem to get it back. And we do get people in the shop that are bringing their machines to Damien to be fixed, and the tension's just way out of whack. And sometimes they don't remember that they even played with that, or they've played with that in a situation that didn't warrant a tension change. So, Amanda, tell us a little bit about when we should be, like, when, how do I phrase this? When is a good time to be looking at the tension? Is it when it's a different weight of thread, when it's a different thickness of fabric, or is it always?
I think looking always is a good practice. I have pieced fall quilts and then realized that my tension was way off and that I had to quilt the crap out of it because the seams weren't going to hold. And instead of like going through and fixing every seam, I just made sure that I densely quilted it so everything was held in place.
Right.
But definitely the tension that you have on your machine for quilting or straight like piecing, and then the tension that you use for free motion quilting are different. Like Jen showed us that on our machine, that she was free motion quilting, and then her machine has already taken that into account and changed it. Yeah. But we're also going to use a different tension with our zigzag stitches or our decorative stitches. And when we take our machines to the tech, they are trained to tension it for a zigzag stitch. So, and I think that is best practices, because that is really hard to get the zigzag or the decorative stitches to look perfect. So they're taking care of that for us. But if we're quilters, that might be when we decide we need to change our tension a little bit differently for piecing and our quilting.
You make a good point. I'm just going to move the no, we'll leave it here, and maybe we can show the sewing on camera too. Yeah. So I'm just going to lay down like a row of stitches here. And what's nice about some of these bigger computerized machines is the auto tension, like you said, it changes the tension based on the job that you're doing. So some of this, kind of just, you don't even have to think about it. So I've got a row of stitches here. The tension looks good, but let's just throw it right off. So if I move the tension from the standard 3.4 and I switch my thread away from Decobob and put it on Polyfast, so this is a 40 weight polyester now. So I'm bringing this right down to like 1. Let's just see what happens. And it wouldn't hurt you guys to do a little playing around yourself, especially if you've got a machine that has auto tension like this, that's going to allow you, like when you turn it off, it's going to just come right back to factory settings.
And you definitely want to test your tension with more than 1 layer of fabric, always.
Yeah, because I'm doing 1 layer here because I didn't want the quilt sandwich to go in. All right, let me fold it.
Sorry, I thought you did have like a quilt sandwich over there. But
yeah,
I do. It does make a difference because we're rarely sewing on just 1 layer of fabric.
It's true. All right, so I'm laying this down. Let's take a look at what happens here. So, all right. I wonder if we can zoom right in here. Actually, maybe we could zoom in on this camera over here. So it's going to be almost impossible to see because it's so small, but we'll give it a shot. And it's so subtle. Like I've gone all the way down to 1 here, and all that I'm really seeing is, it's I don't know.
Oh yeah, you can see that.
And all that really happened is that the stitches look a little slanted.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the naked eye, like anybody at home that doesn't really know much about sewing, would just be like, oh, stitches. Like it wouldn't really be the end of the world for someone that didn't know. But if you're trying to perfect your stitches, if you're seeing like a row of slanted stitches, then you probably need to increase your tension a little bit. And so I'm going to just bring it back up to 2.4. And this is not because 2.4 is any sort of special number. It's just because I'm testing it. And when you're doing tests, especially if you're changing your thread, this is just going to allow you to experiment a little. And sometimes some of the stitches will be straight. Now, when I moved it up more, there's fewer slanted ones. Some of them are straight. Some of them are just fine. That's why tension messes with your mind so much, because you can look at the first like 20 and you're like, oh, it looks good. And then you got like 3 in the middle that are kind of slanted. And it's like, huh? Why'd that happen?
Yeah. And I always take a look at the back. What does the back look like?
Yeah, let's see. Oh, I already sewed it together. Okay, hold on. So I see a little bit of the top thread coming through. And of course it's Decobob, so it's so thin and it's black. So this is not, let me get another fabric here. Let me do it on this.
Yeah, so as we adjust our tension, I just double checked. As the number gets higher, it increases the tension and pulls the discs closer together. And when we lower the number, it moves the discs further apart. So lessens the tension. But the big combo is it's not so much what number's on top, it's how the bobbin tension plays with that top tension. And our bobbins have a set tension. And that's why with Janome, we have a low tension, a regular tension, and a high tension bobbin case that you can get. And sometimes the first thing would be changing out your bobbin case to see if that fixes your tension, because then you don't have to play with your top number.
Yeah. The bobbin casing, like you're right, switching to a low tension or a high tension, because when you're using the screwdriver and adjusting your bobbin tension, even if it is just a quarter turn at a time, that's very tough to get back to where you were.
Yeah. So that's why we have those set ones, so you don't have to mess around with it.
Yeah.
Like that is something that I have built confidence in messing around with, but I also have someone that will fix it for me if I screw it up.
Yeah.
So like, I don't suggest often doing that, but it is the combination of the top tension with the lower tension. So if you don't feel confident changing the top, but you happen to have another bob case, throw it in and see if a lower or higher tension fixes your problems for you. And then that's a pretty easy fix, because if it doesn't, you pop it back out and put the original back in.
Yeah. When I'm looking at the bottom, I went back to factory and like the automatic tension on here, and the bottom stitches are much more defined. And, you know, you do want to make sure that it's consistent on the top and the bottom, and you want it looking like little straight stitches.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing too much or any, if possible, of that top thread on the bottom or the bottom thread on the top. I'm going to try going completely in the other direction now, and I'm turning up the tension. Like, I've got it at 6.8. Let's see what happens.
Leanne St. Louis is asking if pre-wound bobbins from Deco Bob, should I be concerned with adjusting the bobbin tension? No, just don't adjust your bobbin tension. Just put them in your bobbin case. But if you are having problems where you feel like the bobbin tension is too loose, then try the high tension bobbin case and see if that fixes the issue.
Yeah. I got to say that this really is not throwing the tension off too much at all.
I know.
And I think it's because A, the machine's very good, and B, the thread, it's good thread. I've got a good needle. So I'm going to switch out the Polyfast now to Deco Bob on top and bottom and see if I can really try to, or even Invisifill. I'll use Deco Bob since I know you guys have that, and see if I can really mess things up.
And with the mechanical machine, because the dial is on the front, I notoriously sit down to sew and don't check it, but it has already moved because I've moved the machine and I've touched something, and that wheel turns so easily. Yeah. So make sure that when you sit down, I always start with it around a 3. But there is that I start around 4, but there's that range of 3 to 5 that is kind of considered a normal tension. And I think that's a very safe zone on those machines to play within, to build your confidence on being able to change your tension if you're having stitch issues.
The other thing you can do is, if you're not sure whether or not your tension is good or not, like you're listening to us and you're like, I don't know, it all looks good to me. You know, it's go like this on your block and give it a little pull like this. And if it pulls more, and this is a feeling, more than it should, your tension's too loose.
Yeah, if you start to see the thread,
yeah, then
it's probably too loose. But also, if you go to stitch rip and you're like, it's so easy to pull apart, your tension probably is not right. Like it's a gift at that point. It's like, that's true. It's very easy.
And obviously, if you like pull something apart like this, you can see a bit of thread. You can see the stitches, but really see them, like more than a millimeter, see them. You know what I mean? Like it's pulling apart too easily. Yeah. You'll get a feeling about it. And now I am not suggesting rip anything out at all. We are going to quilt this quilt. I do think even with a little bit of a looser tension, it's not structurally unsound. Your pieces are staying together. I'm confident. But if you're not sure if your tension is good or not, give your block a little pull. Okay, Exie says we have a question. Exie, you want to read that out? No? Okay, mark tension with a pencil or a Sharpie or your machine front. A Sharpie on the bobbin case will likely rub off. Yeah, Sharpie. Okay, let me mark tension with a pencil or Sharpie on your machine front. Sharpie on the wall is all your it's true. Yeah, especially like I've got machines here that sometimes are store machines or my own, or you know what I mean? And so I'm not marking anything on any of these machines. But if you are confident, like this is your machine for life and you want to put a little mark on it, by all means, by all means. Yeah, so try pulling it apart. I'm just threading up with Deco Bob here, and I'm going to try to sew this again and see if I can get some wonky tension. For the most part, I left my tension alone, and we sewed a ton of these quilts. Like we've made 7 of them. And the tension at some parts, you know, was it a little looser than yeah, because it's thinner thread, but it was always kind of fine.
Yeah, right. And I think the real point where it kind of matters is where you're starting your stitching on like the curve, and then sometimes that pulls apart. Mm-hmm. But I think you can stop that from happening too much with just how gently you handle the blocks.
Yeah.
But you can also, if you're finding that is happening on the ones that it's doing that, you could just baste across the bottom mm-hmm. and hold them together. Because like yeah. It's the struggle is sometimes when you handle things too much, then you end up with pieces coming off.
Yeah. All right. Question. When I start to quilt, does it matter if I change to cotton thread rather than using Deco Bob? It does not matter. You can change if you want to change. The reason why I'm suggesting Deco Bob, especially on the top, is, and I'll show you here because I've got the one that I've used in the class here. Because in most cases we are going through like we've got white centers, and let me just get it on camera. We've got white centers, and then we've got darker colors and lighter colors. You can't see the white thread on this blue here. It's exactly the same thread that went here, that went here, that went here. And if you change to a cotton thread, that's totally fine. But you'll just have to prepare to see your stitches a little more boldly through some of your darker colors. If you choose Deco Bob, it's going to mask a little bit more because it's so much thinner. So you're going to see your lines, like see here how I'm putting like the lines in the petals. You're going to see those lines without necessarily seeing the color of the thread. So here I'm free motioning, going back and forth, and I'll show you on the blue. I'm going back and forth, but I don't really think you can see that white thread. No. If you had, yeah, let me just grab a cotton. If you have your cotton thread and you don't want to have to keep changing it, let me just see on the overhead. I wonder if we can.
Yeah, you can see the difference there.
Yeah, there's the white thread. And maybe that doesn't bother you.
Yeah. Some people like the whole quilting part to stand out, like hardcore.
Yeah, that's not me. That is not me. I love when the quilting is just a nod to the front. But that's just me. So you can do whatever you love. But I just want you to be aware of what you're signing up for, because sometimes I think the quilting looks like you scribbled all over your fabric, and that's why I love the thread that doesn't stand out. But hey,
I love a nice like lighter gray when I have something that is between colors, because I find then it dulls it a bit on the dark colors, but then it also isn't so stark on the white.
Right. It's true. Or a lavender will do the same thing, a mint green or a light pink. Any of those, depending on what colorway you chose, are really good options. Yeah. On the ornament quilt, I quilted with lavender. With the poinsettia quilt, I think we did like a light gray, because the poinsettia one, you're going from this dark red over to, bright white and a bit of green. So what do?
Yeah. It's hard to know. But like if you're doing a long arm all over design, then it gets into like, it depends on what the design is and what you want to show off more. It's kind of, it's hard to know.
How do I know what bobbin case is high tension? So depending on your machine, but typically it'll have like a blue, like, is it blue or yellow? Yellow dot, but if you have an even higher end machine, it'll be a blue tick. I'm pretty sure.
Or is it white?
I think
the
it's blue.
M17. Yeah, but it says if you look in the bobbin case, there's a little part at the bottom, and it will say 20 grams, and that is high tension. It's 20G, and that is high tension.
Yeah, and I think 10 Gs or 8 Gs is about normal tension, or low tension is 8 Gs, 8 grams, and then regular tension is 13.
Is it 15?
15, I think it's 13. Let's look. I'll show you the bobbin casing here. Actually, you can probably zoom in on this other camera. So inside your black bobbin, 13. So inside your black bobbin casing, that's this, there'll be a part number, and then under it, it says it says 10 grams. Under it, it gives you that grams. So your regular one, 10 grams, low is 8 grams, high can go up to 20 grams. Is it 20 grams or is that the one that's 13?
The high tension is 20.
20?
Yeah.
And it'll have a different color tick right here. This one, the regular tension one, has a red tick. And depending on your machine, it'll have a different tick. If you go, a different colored tick. If you go to Janome website and type in what machine you have, just in the search bar, your machine will come up. And then when you scroll down, you'll see all the standard accessories. And then under that, you'll see optional accessories. And under optional accessories, you'll see high tension bobbin casing. And if you click on it, then you'll see a little photo of it. You'll see the part number. And it's typically sold separately because it's used primarily for free motion quilting or when you're using very, very, thin threads or, things like that, embroidery, that kind of thing. So if you're ever wanting to see what accessories you didn't even know your machine could work with, if you go to optional accessories on the Janome website, you'll see there's tons of them. And there's always cool things. You're like, I didn't know I could get a ruffler. I didn't know I could get like a beading foot or a bi-level foot. There's all kinds of cool ones. So
they have in the accessory section, they have something called the accessory guide that you can download. And it has photos of all of the different accessories you can get and part numbers and all of that. And it really, I love using it all the time just to see if there's a foot that can make whatever I'm doing a little bit easier.
Yeah. And it is a great way because the feet usually aren't that expensive, like $30, somewhere around there. But like if your machine's like a few $1,000s, you can really get a lot more out of it with a few extra feet. And lots of machines come with tons of great feet. And you'll see even under, if you go to the Janome website and look at the accessories, I've got this with mine. Oh, I've got this with mine. Oh yeah, I didn't even know I had that with mine. We hear that a lot when people come in. Oh yeah, your machine comes with this. Oh, great.
I know, Janome is so generous with they give you off the bat because other companies aren't, and you have to buy a ton of things. And
Is that right?
Yeah, I love that Janome, like even the 2030 had a quilting kit for me. So I had like so many options available to me where like other companies with even their higher end models, you're buying all of that separately. Wow. Janome loves you.
Yeah, I've always just used Janome. So only one time did I have a Singer way back. And at the time, it was like all I could afford was that Singer. And it lasted a little while until I needed to do like some heavy duty curtains. And then I had to like trade them on back over for more of a workhorse. The new Singers aren't quite what the old ones used to be, but we do love Janome's. So for the 15,000, just go on to Janome's website, and depending on whether you're in Canada or the US or somewhere else, look on the Janome website for your country, like janome.ca, janome.com, janome.uk, you know what I mean? And you'll see what optional accessories, and then you can message us and send us an email, and we can order it for you and send it out to you. And yeah, and Genomi's always featuring different accessories and stuff too. So they've got tons of stuff in the Genomi classroom and all of that. So
we have tons of things.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, how are we doing? How's everyone doing? Please, in the final run here, let us know if you have any questions. I did kind of foreshadow a little bit. I am going to show you some options for free motion quilting this quilt. If you've been in previous quilting retreats with us, we've done straight line quilting, we've done quilting in the embroidery hoop. So I will post those when it's time. From years past, if you want to look at how to straight line quilt, how to quilt in your embroidery hoop to make it look as though it was long armed. Of course, we've got the long arming available if you want to send your quilt top back to us. But I am going to show you for this quilt some options for free motion quilting. And I'm just giving you that heads up now. No luck with the ASR box yet, Donna, but we haven't forgotten. So I just pulled this from when I shot the class. So if you're going to take a stab at free motioning your quilt, if you have a few extra blocks or triangles like I did here, I saved them because what are we going to use them for unless you're making pillows or something? But I saved them to practice doing some of the shape that I'm suggesting we do, which is basically very, very easy, just kind of echoing the petal to make it look like more like a flower. It's just echoing the petal and then going from side to side in between. But you also have options for loops. You could do a straight up meander. You could give yourself, permission to do a little bit of hook and echoing. But you're going to want to practice before you bring your great work of art to your machine. If you're a very, very beginner, this is a great option, just echoing the lines of the petal. It looks great. It's not too much. It's, you're still quilting it, so it's still nice and stable. The back of your quilt is still going to have like the design in it. And then you can, stitch around the outside. So start giving some thought to how you're wanting to finish your quilt. And I'm just giving you a heads up. This is how I'm showing to do the free motion quilting. Amanda, what are you going to do with I know what you're going to do. You're going to take it right to the Genomi long arm, aren't you?
I actually was thinking about it because there's so many fun Halloween pantographs out there. So I'm like, I think that will be for this one, but not every year, but every couple of years or so, I determine at the beginning of the year, something that I need to focus on. So a couple of years ago, I decided that I really, really needed to work with curves. And I spent a solid year, getting on that. But I really think this next year, it's been bugging me for a while. I want to get better at free motion quilting. And I have a solid meander down, but I need to explore that and try new patterns and try to get more confident with things that aren't just a meander. So, and that's on my M7, or on something similar, not on the long arm, although I probably should learn on there too. But
I know people have been asking for a long time to do a free motion 101. This will be free motioning this quilt, and I'll give you lots of tips and tricks and things like that. You may want to pick yourself up a pair if you didn't get one in our previous retreat boxes, a pair of quilting gloves. Those are always great. We've got them on the website. They're not very expensive, and they just help grip the quilt a little bit more. It makes it a little bit easier to use.
Do you have any of the palm paddles?
Palm paddles, yes, those are fun, and because you can kind of guide them. Also, you can get mats that make the floor of your machine bed a little more slippery. And so those are some extra things that if you're wanting to take a stab at free motioning this quilt. You can do. I really feel strongly, if you're a beginner on free motioning, to not feel the pressure to make it look like an edge to edge design. The real benefit of doing this quilt yourself, free motioning, is being able to change up what you do depending on where you are. So trying to do loops across the entire thing or hooks across the entire thing, that's totally fine. But I really love the idea of being able to do something in the petals and something outside of the petals just to highlight everything. And then you're really getting into customizing and having it really look like your own.
Yes.
So that's just something to keep in mind about the free motion quilting. Just for a second here, because Donna was asking about the box. This is the stitch regulator, and it comes with the new M8. It comes with the M17, and it's optional for the Janome 9480, which is what I'm using. And yeah, this is the stitch regulator, and this is the box that we're hoping we can get in for Donna. We're trying.
I've talked to them at the office about it, so I'll keep putting in a good word.
What the stitch regulator does is it makes all of your stitches, talk about tension and making stitches look good. The stitch regulator, it keeps all your stitches the same size, no matter how fast or slow you're moving. It moves and adjusts the stitches as you go. So that's kind of a cool one. And it comes with a bunch of accessories like the ruler foot and the, what's this one called? The clear
Echo.
What is it?
The Echo foot? Or is it a bullseye foot?
This one.
Yeah. I always call it the Echo foot.
The Echo foot? Okay. That's what I'll call it.
It might not be what it's called.
Yeah.
We all know I'm not good at these.
The open toe one is the one I'm using for this.
Yes.
Just because you can see a little bit better. And then the ruler foot. So anyway, this is a fun thing to use. The stitch regulator is fun. Did you find?
Yeah, it's totally fun. But remember, while you're using the stitch regulator, that when you're selecting the stitch to use for the stitch regulator, make sure that you have the right foot on for it. Because the bullseye foot, I had it and it like kind of moves it between one or the other. So just make sure before you start stitching that it is going in the dead middle of your foot and you're not going to hit it. Don't ask me why I say that, because I might have done that.
Exactly. That's why we have all of this advice, because we've been down so many terrible roads.
Also, back to what you were saying about doing chunks of your quilt free motion. So my very first quilts, I did all free motion. No, not all. I did free motion, but I would pick like one part of it and I did that free motion. And then I also used like a walking foot for part of it. And then I also used, like, I let myself like try all of the things, stitch in the ditch. And you don't have to stick to one technique for the entire quilting. You can switch between them.
Yeah. If you want to stitch in the ditch, all of the outlines of your petals, hey, no problem. Easy. You're just going to put on your walking foot or AccuFeed and stitch all around here. But I can tell you, I stitched in the ditch, stitched in the ditch while I was free motioning, and it goes so much faster. It's really, really fast. The free motioning, it's surprising when you think of like when you're straight line, like how long it takes to keep on going. Yeah. When you're free motioning, you're just like whipping around this thing, and you're like, geez.
Yeah, if I want to finish a quilt quickly, I do a meander all over, a nice loose one, and it's done in a fraction of the time.
Yeah, it's very, very fast, which really is a bonus. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, we've been almost an hour here. If there's any final questions, please let us know. We're happy to answer them. Of course, you can always post in the group. We love seeing your photos. Please show us your works in progress. Yes. I've been trying to post some that I took when I was at that stage, and I've been posting them in the group here and there. I love seeing your photos too. And, I wanted to tell you guys about this. So many of you signed up for I'm going to make this old-fashioned apron. Isn't this just the cutest? I thought we should have done this before Christmas, because then we could have worn it all Christmas, but you know, there's only so much time. So I thought this would be the perfect project to do between Christmas and New Year's. So I'm going to do this as a free class, December 29th. Lots of you bought a kit. I think there's 2 left. There's also just patterns.
Is that fabric? Is it squares, or did you piece squares together for that?
No, the fabric is the squares.
That's so fun.
Yeah, it's very, very fun. And the whole line is vintage like this. And I have some right here. All kinds of different vintage prints from poppy cotton. And so there's some that are, and every kit will be different, but it'll all coordinate. So you might get this and this. We've given everybody in the kit a large print and a low volume print. And they're all like vintage and just the cutest. And it really does have like a great old fashioned flair to it. And once you start wearing these crisscross aprons, I'm telling you, I never feel more like, ugh, than when I try to tie up an actual apron. Because I want it to go around twice and it kind of like, you know.
It never does for me.
That's how I feel.
No, I love a crossback apron. I've been making them for years, and I even got one, and it's a pattern, and it wraps around, and you can make it into a skirt, like into a dress.
Really?
And like, I'm just like, yes, please. Do I want to wear an apron dress? Yes, I do. But the crossback apron, like I use it in the garden, I use it in the kitchen, I use it for painting. Like, it's so easy to throw on.
Yeah, I love this one. I had to bring it back to put it on the mannequin. Because I made this like a while ago, like in the summer, and brought the patterns in. This is the pattern. If you already have the pattern, feel free to just sew along with us. If you don't have the pattern, grab it now so that we can ship it to you before the 29th, or grab a kit if we still have one on there. And then we'll send you the fabric and the thread too, and the pattern. And we'll do this as a free class December 29th. Donna's saying her and Kathy competed to see who could sign up first, and they both lost. Just kidding. Or they weren't first to sign up, but I guess maybe between the two of them. Carol, there is a pattern and it's online. You can just type in crisscross apron, and we have a couple left. It is reorderable for us. We just are now out of the fabric collection. So if everyone, come the 29th is like, I want a kit, we can put it together with different fabric, or you can use yardage from your own collection and just grab a pattern from us. You kind of need the pattern though, because it's enormous. It's all like sort of one big long crisscrossed piece. And when you see it laid out, it's like, oh, good thing I have the pattern for this, or it so that it comes together in the perfect spot. So sometimes I'd say go rogue, you can figure it out, especially if it was like a regular apron.
Yeah, but no, it's very specific.
Yeah, this one, the pattern really did help to make sure that the criss and the crossing really happens in the right place.
Yes.
Anyway, December 29th, if you want to mark that in your calendars, that'll be just about the time no one knows what day it is. So
and if you are looking for, if they're out of the fabric like that, I make mine with linen.
Ooh,
and it is so nice.
That's got a real vintage flair too, right?
I will use linen anytime I can.
Donna's asking, did we get extra books for the block of the month? And we did not. The block of the month for 2024 is sold out. I do think we can get extra books. What we haven't, I shouldn't say we just haven't gotten them yet. We can get extra books. We've got a wait list for the kits. So if you go on to the block of the month, the Barn Star, actually you could probably find the graphic for that under banners, the Barn Star. The actual graphic Hexi under brand. Yeah. Over on the right. No, over, out of that. Yep. The block of the month. Anyway, it's the fabric. It's whether we bring in an entire new, because when we bring in all the bolts, you have to bring in like bolts of it. And so we have to be able to get through all of those bolts, because as much as I love it, I can't have it here for years and years, because that's, you know, when you bring in that kind of quantity, don't worry about it, Exie. When you bring in that kind of quantity, you know, it has to be spoken for. So there is a wait list for the 2024 block of the month. We're doing the Barn Star. Get your name on the list if you're interested in it, because it's only if we get a certain number of people on the list that we'll do it. Yeah. Otherwise, it's sold out. But we can get more books, and you can use your own stash. And then it'll look however you want it to look. Yeah. Amanda, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too.
And to everybody watching. Thank you so much for like just such a wonderful year. I know we'll be back on the 29th for the apron class, but this is our last live here of 2023. And it's been so fun.
It's been like a blur of a year, but it's been an amazing year.
Yeah, we've made lots of good stuff this year. I hope you all take a minute to kind of look at all of the cool things you've created this year. Like if I'm going back to even scrappiness is happiness, we're going to do some more of that with that book in January, because I know lots of you have it.
I have off camera, I have one that I've already like picked out fabric to start, because I'm like, I got to get through some of these scraps.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll be doing a little more of that free stuff in January. And I know lots of you already have that book. So let's make some more from that book in January. We're going to start our block of the month. We've got brush lettering coming up in March. If anyone wants a brush lettering kit, we're going to learn to turn our handwriting into beautiful calligraphy. So if you've loved Watercolor Wednesdays, you're going to love the brush lettering basics. The two go so wonderfully hand in hand. You can check out the website for the brush lettering class. That's not until March. But like I say, these things do sell out. And so if you're like, oh, that'd be cool, don't wait. Because I'm always sorry when people are like, yeah, but can I get one? And you're like, I'm sorry.
I can't.
I know. We try to bring in as many as we possibly can and, you know, weigh it out. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's some cool things coming up in 2024. And I know, Amanda, you'll be around for lots of them. So thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, you're very welcome.
We appreciate you.
Thanks.
All right, everybody.
It's always a blast.
Holiday. Say again?
It's always a blast taking it with everyone here.
Yeah, this community is lovely. Mm-hmm. All right, have a great holiday wherever you are and however you're celebrating. And my vote is carve out a little time to sew.
Yes.
Or a lot. All right, happy holidays, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.